You're free to play any game the way you wish to. When it comes to Valorant, there's a big difference creating plays as the game has a high diversity point. Welcome back to Esports Driven, and in this video we'll teach you all about the unspoken rules of Valorant that you must never break during your plays. Without further ado, let's dive right into it. Chances are you 100% made this mistake in some of your previous games. In fact, you probably have done it in every game you played, just in different measures. A rule we all tend to break is overheating. But what does that mean? It's where you make a play and gain space and or player advantage but end up blowing that upper edge away because you overextend and took fights you weren't supposed to. You will very likely get punished when you cross the line, and this takes away the credit from the good plays you make sometimes. A prime example is taking space and entry into sight, but going all the way to push the defender's spawn, resulting in an impossible fight and likely loss of the round. You need to think before you initiate plays. There is no reason to overextend most of the time. The second rule is the complete opposite of what we just talked about. We're referring to baiting. It's when you're playing on a different pace than your teammates that mostly leads to you being the last player alive in the round, and possibly the least valuable on that round too. This often happens unintentionally. A lot of the times you don't realize that you're baiting even if you told you are. Take a moment and look. How often are you the last player? If your answer is often or most of the time, you might need to reconsider if you were baiting your team or not. Always communicate if you're playing slow, lurking, or doing something else. You should be with your team most of the time, but if you have other plans, make sure to communicate that so you don't end up being on that shiny baiting spot with 4 spectators full of toxicity towards you. Phantom users have the privilege to spray their entire magazines through smokes every time they like to, but for a Vandal user, it's much different. If you don't already know, Vandal has bullet tracers that the enemy can see while the Phantom doesn't. This means that if you shoot through smokes with a Vandal, enemies will know where you are. This doesn't mean you can never shoot with a Vandal through a smoke, you just need to be precise and careful with it. For example, try to only burst and strafe if you're using a Vandal. This will help you keep you alive if the enemies try to shoot back. Hey you, yes you, did you subscribe yet? Do it, now. Many controller players keep breaking the universal law of smoking retakes. When you're retaking as a controller, you are one of the most valuable players on the team. Your smokes can be a result changer. And when you're retaking a site, you must smoke the spike, not the choke point. Take C-Site for example. If you smoke long and start defusing, this makes it so the enemy team has to walk as far as into sight to be able to kill you. While if you smoke the spike, this will provide you extra cover from them seeing you after pushing out into sight. These extra seconds can easily be the round and possibly game win. On the map Icebox, don't you dare break the snowman if you're on the attacking half. Yes, you heard me, this snowman next to A main, it's the source of blessing, and breaking it is against the Valorant law. Don't do it. But if you do flank your enemies while you're on the defensive half, make sure you break it to curse them. That could be the strongest hit for you. It's very important to be able to tell when you need to push and when you need to hold. This alone is a decision that can change many games in your career. So if yours is red, let's take a look at this and maybe we can paint it green. Here's the rule we as Valorant peasants follow. If you are at a player disadvantage, you should play more aggressive. If you're at a player advantage, you should play more passive. Never aggress if you're up in players, and never try to hold and settle if you're down in players. Every time you're going into a deep aggressive position, look at the top of the screen and just make sure that you aren't doing this mistake. At times, you have to remind your teammates not to aggress. If you manage to properly make up a good decision of when to hold and when to push, you'll start noticing the difference. While you've learned about the universal Valorant rules, chances are you might still be doing mistakes that can nerf your potential. And for that, we've dedicated many resources such as our 7 mistakes that ruin your aim video that can help you get those mistakes sorted. If you enjoyed our content, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.